Good evening. Let us address the big news that's coming from the Reserve Bank of India. It is Friday, and usually the RBI does send us important breaking news on a Friday evening. The Reserve Bank has now decided to withdraw the 2,000 rupee note from circulation. So what it essentially means is that banks will no longer issue 2,000 rupee note denominations with immediate effect. But, and this is the important news, that the 2,000 rupee note continues to be legal tender. The RBI has also specified that there will be an exchange process that's been set up. In fact, let me quote to you what the Reserve Bank is saying. In order to ensure operational convenience and to avoid disruption of regular activities of bank branches, the exchange of 2,000 rupee banknotes into banknotes of other denominations can be made up to a limit of 20,000 rupees at a time at any bank starting from May 23, 2023. It also goes on to say to complete the exercise in a time-bound manner and to provide adequate time to members of public, the exchange facility for the 2,000 rupee banknote is open until the 30th of September 2023. So you can exchange the 2,000 rupee banknote into other denominations, 20,000 rupees at a time, and the window for this exchange is open starting May to the 30th of September. That is the news that's coming from the Reserve Bank of India this evening. So it continues to be legal tender. Banks have been asked to stop issuing the 2,000 rupee denomination note. But what we also want to highlight is that, in fact, printing of the 2,000 rupee note was stopped in 2018-2019. Joining us now is the former Finance Secretary, Subhash Chandra Garg. Mr. Garg, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Well, in many ways, this brings to the close the chapter of demonetization, Mr. Garg, if I could call it that. The government had already stopped printing, the Reserve Bank had stopped printing the 2,000 rupee note, and now the RBI, through a circular, has said that it will stop banks from issuing the 2,000 rupee note. And of course, there is an exchange facility to swap to other denominations that the Reserve Bank has now opened from May to September. Your first reactions?
See, 2,000 rupees note was used to make the demonetization process facilitate, because there was no other note available at that time of 500 or 1,000 rupees. And the other notes were too small to monetize the economy or to serve the purpose of the economy. So 2000 note was available, it was used, and it was actually stopped being printed in July 2017 itself.
Yeah.
Not in 2018-19. And from that day onward, the process of...
The Reserve Bank says 2018-19, Mr. Garg. I'm reading from the Reserve Bank press release. It says printing of the 2,000 rupee banknote was stopped in 2018-19. But you might be privy to other information.
Doesn't matter. Effectively, all the notes which were in circulation were printed before July 2017. There might be a small number of leftover paper which might have been printed in 18-19, but that is too small to be of any real consequence. And from that time onwards, the 2,000 rupee note has increasingly gotten withdrawn from the process. It was never used as a major currency notes for the transaction purposes. Even now, if you would read the last RBI report, I think it's only about 4 lakh equivalent of the notes which were in the process which were available. And so it's a natural progression of the policy of letting the 2,000 rupee note phase out of the system of currency. And now we have also got all the 500 rupees note printed in large quantities. 200 and 100 rupees note have also come in. But the 500 rupees is a major workhorse, so to say. And with that, of the 31 lakh crores of the currency in circulation, I think about 2/3 or more than that is 500 rupees note now. So that's serving the purpose. 2,000 rupee note was not required anymore. And the life of such notes is also about 6 to 7 or 8 years. And from 2017, now we are approaching 6 to 7 years note. And that is why the RBI has also used the clean note policy argument to take out the 2000 rupees note. And the time which has been provided is fine. You have about 4 months plus to exchange or deposit in your account. In account, there is no limit. You can, whoever has a large amount of thing, they can deposit into the account. And the banks will not put into the ATMs or give it across the counter any longer, which in a way, if you look at it, even in the ATMs for quite some time, the notes were not really available. So I think that's a natural decision, and it's a fine decision. Its life is over, and that is how it's going to work.
Yes, that is clearly how it's going to work. And as we heard there from Mr. Garg, and as I was pointing out, this is in a way closing out the chapter of demonetization that began in 2016. It is the end of the 2000 rupee note. But again, for the benefit of our viewers, what we are pointing out is that there is no reason to panic. You can exchange the 2000 rupee note and get a different denomination. The facility is open at all RBI registered offices and at banks. But what you will need to do is you will need to exchange it at 20,000 rupees in one go. This facility is open from May to September. Mr. Garg, it is raining breaking news this Friday evening, and the other important breaking news that's taking place is a clarification that's come in from the Finance Ministry, and clearly the government acknowledging and taking cognizance of the backlash with the imposition of that 20% TCS on credit card transactions. The government has now decided to change the rules, imposing a 20% TCS on international transactions using credit cards. The 20% TCS will not be applicable on international transactions via credit cards below 7 lakh by individuals. The government has excluded international transaction via credit cards up to 7 lakhs from the LRS limit. So there was a lot of backlash that this was against the principles of ease of doing business. This was a tax for the common honest citizen. This was actually going to force people to move away from using digital payments back to cash. Mr. Garg, do you believe that this is the government cognizant and reacting to that the right thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. There was no reason for bringing this kind of thing. Not only this credit card, which was brought in about 2 days back, the original 20% on the LRS is also completely unjustified. Whenever you transmit on LRS, you are not actually earning anything. So treating that expenditure as some sort of pseudo earning and putting a TCS there is really a lack of good imagination. It's good that the government has withdrawn on the credit card. It's also advisable that the government also rationalizes the policy on the LRS transfers. For education, 7 lakh, 5%, beyond that, 20%, for travel and others, doing it 20%. All these are absolutely nonsense, if I may say so. And the whole construct should be, which is based on as if people are using this for their using their unearned incomes to do the LRS transfer, which is not the case. All transfers are made through the banking channels, and you have the information on credit cards available to you. You have information available on your foreign travels and everything. So instead of using that information to find out whether anyone has used money which is not subjected to tax, you put this kind of TCS, which is a procedural nightmare. And for people, their cash flow requirement goes up, their borrowing requirement goes up, their ease of doing business becomes such a, the government's much wanted aim is to promote ease of living, but this is absolutely contrary to that. So I think this is saner, but it's a half step. The government should go to full step and withdraw the whole this 20% business on the entire LRS ecosystem.
Well, this is the notification, not the notification, but the announcement that's come in. And I would imagine that a notification will follow. But this is the announcement that's come in from the Finance Ministry at this point in time, tweaking the rules. And once again, for the benefit of our viewers, I am quoting what the Finance Minister says: to avoid any procedural ambiguity, it has been decided that any payment by an individual using their international debit or credit cards up to 7 lakh rupees a financial year will be excluded from the LRS limit and hence will not attract any TCS. Existing beneficial TCS treatment for education and health payments will also continue. Sapna Das joins us now. Sapna, till yesterday, the government was defending its position, but there has been a serious outpouring of criticism, saying that this is against the ease of doing business, this is hurting the common taxpayer. The government seems to have heard and taken cognizance.
Absolutely, and in fact, if you look at the kind of limit that they have kept, the 7 lakh rupee, this is more aimed at the common taxpayer, as you're rightly saying. The smaller salary class. Not necessarily people who do spend up to, say, for example, $2.5 lakh traveling abroad, stuff like that. So this should give some relief, at least to the small holidayers, small taxpayers. To that extent, not only the earlier status, partial status is back up to 7 lakh rupees. This will not be counted as part of your liberalized remittance scheme, totally exempt. But even that 20% TCS provision will not apply. And this is not only for credit cards, this has also been done for debit cards. So here again, I think from that angle, the government is trying to maintain equity in terms of treatment of both the cards. Obviously, the LSR limited will be done later. I mean, that's under the FEMA current account transaction rules. That's mere formality now after this important government statement. And I think further on also, there will be further clarifications which are likely.
Okay, further clarifications which are likely. But thanks very much, Sapna, for taking us through this. Mr. Garg, coming back to this issue of the way that taxes are imposed, and very often it seems that they're in opposition to the ease of doing business. Of course, the government withdrawing this and making amends today, but it certainly does sour sentiment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In a way, it was good that when they extended it to the credit cards, because use of credit card for international transactions when you are abroad or you're doing any international supplied expenditure is procedurally impossible to implement. If you're buying food somewhere, and then how does that guy who is selling you is not part of the TDS and TCS collection system in the country, how do you get this done? So all these things are always a problem as far as implementation is concerned. So this was an impossible rule to implement. They just wanted to equate all the credit card spent on the international transaction equivalent to the LRS. That was the reason why this was brought in. But the original sin is the collection of TCS on the use of LRS. That has not so far attracted that kind of criticism, but possibly because perhaps the people involved is a relatively smaller number, and that's why that has not. This was in the budget, and 5% was in the last year's budget. So that had not attracted that kind of criticism, that kind of backlash. In fact, that itself is also not a. So if you are sending your son or daughter for education, if the expenditure is more than 7 lakh, you pay 20% extra. Because most of that you borrow, you have to borrow 20% extra to pay the TCS, collect at the end of the year, or you're planning travel abroad, then using or transferring it to your relatives or others. For all of that, you are not actually imposing any tax. You are only trying to catch if there is any escape or evasion of tax by saying that if that income, that guy, the TCS is there, he will, when he collects, his all income will come into the process. But my sense is that in most cases, I would bet that more than 90%, 95% of cases, the income transfer is, or the LRS transfer is from the legally earned income. So subjecting for 2 or 3%, which you otherwise can catch because you have today information on almost every use of the income through 26A and other kind of system which are there. All these transactions are reported. So you can catch that from there if 2 or 3%, but subjecting 95, 97% of the people who are genuinely using LRS for making transfers and putting them to this rigor or unnecessary procedural hassle of going through the TCS rules, I think is absolutely unnecessary. That should also be withdrawn.
Well, Mr. Garg, thanks very much for joining us this evening on both the big breaking news developments and again recapping for our viewers a decision by the Reserve Bank of India, and that is to stop the circulation of 2,000 rupee notes. So banks will no longer issue 2,000 rupee notes. Remember, the printing of the 2,000 rupee notes had already stopped in 2018-2019. There is an exchange facility that has been set up. You can exchange your 2,000 rupee notes in tranches of 20,000 at a time, and that window is open between May and September of this year. The other development that's taken place, and that is the announcement that's come in from the Finance Ministry, and which is a U-turn on the decision of the government to bring in a 20% TCS on credit card transactions, international transactions, and the government has now said that for an individual payer with a 7 lakh spend per financial year, there will be no TCS of 20% that will apply. So those are the big stories breaking at this hour. We are going to take a quick break and return with more news.
When our big boss was MD, he used to take care of us.
And our Prince Sahab is busy ensuring his family. Oh, big boss, you?
He's busy obtaining term insurance for his family. After all, office is also our family, am I right?
Let's close the deal.
Thank you.
Verma ji, will you have tea with this prince?
LIC's Group Term Assurance Plan takes care of your office family.
Mission Swachhata Aur Pani. This is something to do with sanitization. It's something to do with clean water. It's something to do for the future of our country. It's for the people. It's by the people, and it's of the people. And I feel that it's very inspiring that our very own Prime Minister is someone who is taking his special care in this, because I guess we all understand how important this is for the development of any country moving forward.
Harpic News 18 Mission Swachhata Aur Pani. Healthy hum jab saaf rakhe toilets hardam.
I'm a chameleon. It's my job to change color. But your wealth manager, well, they shouldn't be copying me, you know. You know that. Choose Nuvama. We only do what's right for you and your money. Nuvama. Let's do it right.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
From navigating adversity to spearheading innovation, business leaders in India have been the architects of country's inspiring story of resilience and resurgence. Catch all the highlights from the 18th edition of India Business Leader Awards that honored these visionaries of India Inc. And this time, only on CNBC-TV18.
Presented by Standard Chartered. In partnership with Hindustan Times. In association with Reliance Industries Limited.
एक ऐसी धरती जिसकी सुंदरता की कोई सीमा नहीं, कला, संस्कृति और ऐतिहासिक धरोहर का एक संगम स्थल प्रशंसकों को एक जादुई क्षेत्र में ले जाता है। जम्मू कश्मीर में एक नए युग की शुरुआत।
हमें मिलकर जम्मू कश्मीर को नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाना है।
श्रीनगर G20 प्रतिनिधि मंडल को जम्मू और कश्मीर की सुंदरता और मेहमान नवाजी का अनुभव करने के लिए स्वागत करता है।
said the markets can't be exciting? Who? Get the lowdown on the yays and mays. Straight from the top, catch market feels and news reels. Number crunch for the best of the bunch. The bigger Q for the richer you. Hot trends, big noise, what's viral and what's out. We'll give you the market goals you need to stay ahead. Mad about markets.
Well, we are addressing two of the big breaking news developments. The RBI has issued a circular saying that the 2,000 rupee denomination banknote will be withdrawn from circulation. It will continue as legal tender. As we've been reporting, the RBI has made it clear that you can exchange the 2,000 rupee denomination for other denominations starting this month to September of this year. You can do that in tranches of 20,000 rupees at a time at bank branches as well as at the regional offices of the RBI. That will start from this month itself, that is the month of May. Joining us now is Deepali Pant Joshi, the former Executive Director at the Reserve Bank of India. Ms. Joshi, thanks very much for joining us here in CNBC-TV18. As I was pointing out, in many ways, this is the conclusion of the demonetization exercise that started in 2016. The 2,000 rupee note came into existence in November of 2016, and it was brought in primarily as there was no other way for the government to be able to replace the currency requirement, having done away with the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. So now the Reserve Bank saying no longer in circulation, in legal tender with an exchange facility set up till September. Your thoughts?
You see, Shereen, you're absolutely right. And of course, I'm delighted to be among old friends. When we started the demonetization exercise, there's a particular section in the RBI Act, Section 24(1), in terms of which we introduce notes or we withdraw notes. And we have, as Shereen, you're well aware, a clean note policy. So these are periodic exercises which we carry out. But when there was demonetization, we could not immediately replace the entire currency by volume. But what we could do was we could replace it by value. After a while, we realized that for retail, this is not really working. And it is not of utility. So a decision was taken to gradually phase it out. And you're very right. And I appreciate your insight that, yes, this is the last nail in the demonetization exercise. And the thing which I really want to emphasize is that under the clean note policy, the RBI does not want torn, defaced notes also in circulation. So these are exercises which are periodically carried out. Even prior to demonetization, we had carried out an exercise to withdraw old 500 rupee notes. And 500 rupee notes at that point in time, because they were old notes, they were very frequently counterfeited. So therefore, a completely new note was introduced, which could not be easily counterfeited. And it had many features, many security features, many central bank features, which are secret features by which we can identify a genuine note. Now that the need for that has lapsed, and in circulation, there are very few of these notes, because I told you, over 5-6 years, we've been trying to phase out the printing of these notes, because there's also a larger cost to printing these notes because of its many features. However, the important thing for your listeners to note is that they can go to any bank branch. It is not to be associated with demonetization, in the sense that the legal tender character of the note is still there. Your note is valid. You can give it and get 500 rupees notes, or you can get 100 rupee notes in exchange for it. But, like all good things must end at a particular point in time. Therefore, the RBI has said that up to the 31st of May, you can come in and we will freely exchange your notes and no questions asked, please. But you have to come in with some form of identification. The standard form of identification is your Aadhaar card. So we know who you are, and we are not going to note down how many notes you're giving us or what. It's not an exercise like that. is a purely routine exercise which the central bank undertakes from time to time. As of now, the central bank has decided that these notes no longer have any utility because they're not used. There has to be as we say in the economy, there has to be a turnover. You have to keep, you give your notes, you get goods and services in exchange for those notes. That's no longer happening, so it's become kind of redundant. So again, I'll emphasize, legal tender character means it's valid.
Sorry.
Please go to your bank branch, pull out your 2,000 rupee note, but please ensure that it's done fast. That's about it.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right, and that's what we've been emphasizing, that in 20,000 tranches, in a tranche of 20,000 rupees is what you can exchange at one time, starting May to September of 2023. That is what the Reserve Bank is saying. And to the point that Deepali Joshi was making, we have seen the total value of 2,000 rupee banknotes in circulation declining from 6.73 lakh crore rupees. That was the peak as on March 31st, 2018, which was then 37% of the total notes in circulation. It's now down to about 3.62 lakh crore rupees, which is about 11% of the notes in circulation. So, Deepali Joshi, many thanks for joining us and explaining to our viewers the significance of the decision taken by the Reserve Bank of India today. We appreciate your time. But let's